Hey, it's AAA. Welcome to a slightly different video. There has been a big update to Tiny Rogues, which I'm going to go over the patch notes for. I've seen other YouTubers do this for games in the past, when that game's kind of their mainstay, and since Tiny Rogues is kind of my mainstay, I wanted to, go over the patch notes, share my feelings on it. I've already played through some of the update yesterday when it came out. On the night it came out, which was last night. But because of, also ignore that it says 3:14 p.m. I guess it was yesterday afternoon. Anyways, because of, the nature of backlogging and how recording batches work, you won't get to see me do the big November update until the first week of December. So, I wanted to go over my feelings about the update now, and we can, go through it. And if you like Tiny Rogues but don't feel like scrolling through the quite long patch notes, then you have an auditory way to hear them. So this update is very exciting because, for one, Ruby's going to be able to be a full-time developer starting about December 15th. And this update adds quite a lot. The highlights of it are, Tiny Deck is now Steam Deck verified, if that's a thing you do. Added control schemes for controller and keyboard only. I might actually try keyboard only at some point. Maybe next recording batch. More music, which I really quite like it. New class, the Gunslinger. We got another rework to the Pyromancer, and I think this will be where the Pyromancer stays. I've played the Pyromancer rework, and I love it. And I think it's the best iteration of the character yet. I added 12 weapons, reworked numerous events, 5 new traits, 7 new enchantment modifiers, new shopkeeper and buffs to previous shops, or changes to previous shops, mostly buffs. Soul Orb has been reworked in a way I quite like, and also there's Steam Cloud support, which is cool. Now the actual, bulk of the patch notes. It starts off with the controller and keyboard support. The game is still definitely intended to be played with keyboard and mouse, but now it's possible to be played with either just keyboard, akin to Brotato, and controller, if that's your jam. I'm probably going to be trying out controller and keyboard only, mostly out of curiosity, also because of the aim assist feature, which, as you guys know, I'm very visually impaired. That could be very useful for me. So you can now play the game without a mouse. It also gives an option to automatically target when using the configured keys or controller binding for aiming. There's now aim assist and auto aim. The aim assist will only apply when the game is controlled without a mouse. So I thought maybe you might be able to have aim assist with a mouse. Currently you cannot. The enemy targeted by aim assist is marked with an indicator, as you can see in this little thingy down here, which you can turn on and off. You can adjust the aim assist strength. Recommend 0 for true twin stick, 100% for the full auto aim, which is what the dev recommends if you're playing controller or keyboard. You can switch back and forth by pressing buttons on the controller or pressing the aim keys on the keyboard, or moving the mouse if you're using the mouse. You can also lock the game into controlling without a mouse in the options. And here are the major changes and tweaks. There's a lot here, a lot of good things, I think. First thing, there are 16 new tracks of the OST, or 16 tracks of the OST have been extended, which is nice. Also, this is a big change. Attributes now provide minor increases to stats. For every point of strength you have, you gain 0.5% increased damage. It's not a lot, but it's something. 1 point of dex grants 0.5% increased attack speed, I quite like that. My personal favorite, you guys know I love my crits. 1 point of intelligence grants 0.5% added crit chance. I've seen some arguments that these two should go the other way around. I'm glad they're not that way, because dex runs are already very strong and very crit focused, and I think that would just mean you would want to go almost dex exclusively outside of a little strength for something like Relentless. Another huge change. It changed how base damage is calculated. This is something I actually talked about, that a lot of base damage items didn't feel worthwhile. Previously, when things added base damage, such as the Iron Ring, Pearl Ring, Sharktooth Necklace, there's a couple others, it was not affected by weapon scaling or anything. It was just a flat number on top. Now, The damage is added onto the base damage before the calculation, not after. So, if you have a weapon that deals 50 damage, but you have a +5 base damage modifier, as well as a 30% damage increase, the 5 is added to the 50 before it's multiplied by the 30%, not after it's multiplied by the 30%. So base damage, things that add base damage are now much better. There is now a difference between added bonus damage and added base damage. It's not super applicable. Basically, bonus damage means it's after, base damage means it's before. There's only one thing that has added bonus damage, and that's the cloth hood, which is not very good, in my opinion. Anyways, status effects with a room-based duration now only count up when completing a room encounter, meaning combat. So things like shrines, I believe infusions as well, potions, aren't affected by blacksmiths, armories, events, and shops, which I think is a great change. I assume taverns are also in there. Also changed how internally the game calculates and uses rarity weightings. So it led to, previously there were some weird behaviors of reward distribution. Basically, it's been changed a little bit so that it smooths out distribution and appearance rate of certain room rewards, so that way it doesn't feel like you're getting the same stuff over and over, or getting useless stuff over and over. Reduce the price of a red dice that's sold in the tavern back down to 5 from 10. I think on the PTR, this was increased and then decreased again, which I think is a good change. I think the red dice are worth 5. I think it's a good price for them. Blood chests can now drop a purging stone and explode with a bomb, if that's relevant. It's occasionally relevant to me, because I'm bad at... I tend to hoard bombs and then blow up a bunch of stuff because I don't have enough keys. Damage over time status effects, burn, poison, bleed, etc., now tick twice as fast, but have had their damage halved. So that way, the dots tick faster, which means things that increase your dots damage are much more impactful now, in my opinion. Anyways, reduce the cost of a lot of shop offers, because some of them were insane. I remember seeing like a triple-digit shop cost at some point, like a floor 7 on a run, and I was like, no, please. Shops can now offer more than 3 items. Some have a fixed amount, but 5 is the max, and you're likely to see 3 or 4 items from a shop. A lot of the shopkeepers just had their pools changed. I don't have information on that, but it's cool. New shopkeeper is the Soul Peddler. He will sell items for souls and is the soul equivalent of the Rat Shopkeeper. Previous shop offer prices increase with each floor. Or previously they increased with each floor, they don't anymore. At least they don't as harshly. Because previously at the end game things costed a ton, that basically the inflation has been scaled back. This could have been worded a little better. Inflation's been scaled back. Blacksmiths will now always appear after armory rooms. This is a huge deal. Previously it happened quite often that an armory appeared immediately after going into a blacksmith, which is quite annoying. So now, if you go into an armory, you can always guarantee a blacksmith after, which is a great change. Refired attacks don't use ammo, which is, I think, a great thing. The nurse now always appears in the tavern, but 1 heart now costs 10 gold instead of 5 gold to heal, making it so heals are a bit more expensive, which I think is fair. The Fair Lady, the Death's Mark, and the beer drinking NPC have all been removed. I honestly think that's all fine. The NPCs, the Fair Lady's definitely not needed now with the nurse being always there. Repair powder now repairs all armor, but repair powder is now harder to come by, and is more expensive when you come by it. I've not done an armor run since this update, but it's interesting to note. The potion seller NPC now sells a random potion, which is this is something I recommended, but the potion cost has been increased to 20 Gs, was previously 10 when it was just a healing potion. I guess because she's always there and she costs 10, it would be kind of redundant for him to also cost 10 and have a healing potion. The ethereal enchantment has now been moved into the regular pool of enchantments, Manaspars. My reading is hard with my diplopia. Mana stars now spawn every 20% of bosses' HP down from every 10%. So they're a bit less frequent. The 10% threshold was a bug was an error because of the boss's HP getting split into two sets. Increase the slow effect from chill from 20 to 30%, so chill will feel a bit more useful. There are 7 new weapon enchantments. Disenchanting, which gives you plus 25% damage versus enchanted enemies. I don't like this one. I got it, I used it, I don't think it's great, although it also should be called something cooler like spell breaking in my opinion or something like that, but I don't think it's worthwhile. Fierce and Vicious both add base damage. These are very good. Hulking adds 20% damage. Lucky adds luck, which can be useful in some weapons. Rapid gives plus 20% attack speed. Savage gives plus 50% critical hit multiplier. The Deadly enchantment has been nerfed, so that it grants plus 25% critical hit multiplier instead of 30. It also has adjusted the appearance weighting of weapon enchantments, making the worst ones less common, so Blessed or Feral. And things like, the one that, there's Blessed, Feral, the Undead one or whatever. The ones that are like, Disenchanting as well. Ones that are damage versus enter subjective target here, less likely. I personally think I really like a lot of these changes. The blacksmith now has star icons above their head that show you how high you can upgrade, as well as how high your current weapon is upgraded. And I found when I was playing a new blacksmith room that had a soul forge that let you spend souls to upgrade up to 4th level, which was really cool, and I'm glad that's implemented. But it had 4 stars to let you know that it wasn't a better version. Shop offer prices that cost souls are now rounded to the nearest 50, so you're not having weird numbers of souls. Updated some old tips to now be more relevant. There's a new user interface element to change how error messages appear if you're on the PTR. Bosses' hit bars now have a little X2 indicator, which is something I mentioned that it seemed a bit hard to, like, as a new player you could be thrown off guard really quickly by the 2 phases. Also, I like the change that the second phase is now red. Made it a whole lot easier for me to tell. Sometimes my memory blanked on which phase I was on. The PTA beta now has a button on the title screen which allows you to copy the save information from the main version of the game, which means I'll be using the PTR now, sometimes. The unlocks menu now states whether a class is considered a basic class for the purpose of unlocking the doppelganger. You don't need the gunslinger to unlock the doppelganger, basically. And future characters probably won't be considered basic classes. There's a new option to change how reloading is shown. The new accessibility options, not a lot, but there's more to come. Option allows you to turn off the timer, and anti-flashbang mode, something I'm so glad he added. It's something I mentioned a couple of times in the Discord. Very much needed for me and others, I'm sure. Some changes to events. The shooting range now works regardless of what weapon you're using. The chance to gain status effects from the Wishing Well has been reduced, but it now gains a permanent +1 luck instead of a temporary +5 luck. The Desert Oasis event now grants 25% increased recovery speed permanently, instead of doubling recovery speed for a few rooms, which is very nice. The Guillotine event previously could only grant either the Silver Serpent Ring, a ring I hate, or the Onyx Ring, a ring I love. It now cannot give the Silver Serpent Ring anymore, but it can now also give the Clover Amulet and the Skull Ring, 2 other very good accessories. There are now permanent versions of the resins, with fresh gold resin, fresh charcoal resin, and fresh crystal resin, which can be from the tree events, which one of my first runs, we actually got 2 of those in the same run. It was great. The decreased attribution requirements for Excalibur and the Runestone, so Excalibur now requires 15 strength, Runestone 10 strength. The potion lab no longer contains duplicates, and can no longer contain antidotes or health potions. Now the new class. I really like this class, having played with it now. The Gunslinger. It can be unlocked by upgrading a gun or cannon to level 4. There's a new achievement for beating death as the Gunslinger, House of the Rising Sun, which I got. The Pyromancer passive ability has been reworked with Fire Mastery. Weapons that don't deal fire damage are infused with fire. Weapons that inherently deal fire damage deal 100% more burn damage. This is awesome, and I love it. It interacts great with some of the traits we'll talk about next. Makes Pyro a whole lot more fun. Trait changes. There are a lot of them. Removed the piercing shots trait, which is good because I don't think I ever took it. Alacrity has been buffed from 25% to 30% increased attack speed. Spellblade has been buffed from 50% bonus attack speed to 100. Static blows has been buffed from 175 to 200 damage to 250 to 300 damage. The cooldown has been increased slightly from 0.2 seconds to 0.25 seconds. Brawler has been reworked. Now grants 10% more damage per enemy in the room, up to 40%. Previously, it only granted 30% more damage while facing 3 or more enemies. Sword and Board has been renamed to Shield Bash. Shield Bash now works with all melee weapons while holding a shield. Rampage now grants 5% increased damage each time you complete a room. The damage bonus resets each floor. Previously granted 30% more damage for 4 seconds on kill. I don't think Rampage is great. I think it's okay. Not great. Close combat and sharpshooter now specify the range required to be close range and far range in their description. Ignore Pain has been renamed to No Pain, No Gain. It now grants plus 3 death defies per room, but you can't and don't have armor anymore. I really like No Pain, No Gain now. Ignore Pain was okay. I think No Pain, No Gain is now very interesting. Amplify now grants 30% increased area radius and 30% increased area damage. Previously just gave 50% increased area radius. Quick Step now grants 20% increased attack and movement speed for 4 seconds on dash. Previously just granted 25% increased movement speed, making Quick Step much better. Relentless Assault's cooldown has been reduced to 1 second from 2. Opportunistic now grants 100% chance to trigger a refire with any attack for 0.5 seconds with a 2-second cooldown. Previously granted 30% increased attack speed for 4 seconds on dash. The Gunslinger trait has been renamed to Tactical Reload. I guess because now there's a Gunslinger character, they didn't want it to be confusing. Decay now grants 2% increased damage over time per second spent in the room, up to 100% increased damage. I really like the Decay change. It makes poison a lot more viable. It previously granted plus 50% bonus damage to dots. Resourcefulness now drops 1 mana star per current stamina on dash. Previously 1 mana star on dash. Resourcefulness is now super good if you're going into decks mixed, which there's a lot of ways to do that with the changes to some of these other things. Quick Cast now grants 40% increased attack speed when you pick up a mana star, and the attack speed bonus now decays over 4 seconds. There are now hybrid traits with Lethality, Power of Nature, Rampage, and Spellblade, so that way they'll come up more likely if you are hybriding. Power of Nature is great. I finally got my first good run with Power of Nature, and it was awesome. You'll see a video on that later. Rage now grants 4% increased attack speed on hit up to 10 stacks, but it only lasts 2 seconds. Previously 6% increased attack speed for 4 seconds, up to 5 stacks for 30% total. There are new dex perks, which are spoilered, but they're mostly related to guns. We've got Grenadier. On attack, throw a reload that explodes into multiple projectiles on impact, which refreshes on reload, if I remember correctly. Quick Load, 10% increased attack speed. Total modifier to attack speed affects reload speed. So I was wrong in where I thought that reload speed and attack speed would now, be paired. quick load is required for that. Dynamo, 25% increased attack speed if you have reloaded recently, 25% increased reload speed if you haven't reloaded recently. I think this is good on any gun that doesn't have one ammo. So the VBFG, not so good. Sniper, not so good. Because you're going to be reloading recently basically all the time. So it would only be the increased attack speed, which isn't super useful when you have one shot. Transcendence, gain 25% base damage per infused damage type from status effects on you. I got Transcendence with 2 permanent resins and it was great. Transcendence is a very worthwhile perk to pick up if you have any permanent infusions. Give and Take, gain 10% increased damage per current stamina point. Gain a 10% increased attack speed per missing stamina point. Not used this one yet, but it seems very good in theory. We've had some changes to equipment. Armor of Thorns, Armor of Agathis, and Armor of Avernus have all been buffed, increasing their radius. Power Belt has been nerfed from 20 to 15 strength, but it's now much more common, which is nice. The Cloth Hood grants plus 50 bonus damage to enemies at far range. Still not very good. The Cleric Robe now will revive you once per floor. The Soul Lantern now grants 5% more damage per soul heart instead of 2. Mage Treads now grant 25% increased bonus damage from mana rather than 20. And out in the changes to Iron Ring, Pearl Ring, and Shark Tooth, they now grant 25% base damage, which is a lot better. The Inferno Potion has also had its orbital radius increased. Soul Orbs no longer grant the ethereal effect and instead let you remove a perk and exchange it for a new trait. Consumables that grant a status effect will now appear less often if you already have the status effect they apply. So it's basically if you have an infusion running or a potion from Mage Blood, you're less likely to find that potion or infusion. Doesn't stop it from opening a potion chest and getting all of the same potion. That happened to me earlier. Didn't love that. And now lots of weapon changes. I'm running out of breath. Here we go. The damage of Haunt has been nerfed from 800% to 500%. The bonus damage of Juggernaut has been decreased to 50% from 100. The lightning and elemental damage type has been added to the Gungeon. Added the magical damage type to the energy saber. The laser rifle range has been increased from 150 to 200, and its intelligence scaling has been buffed from E to D. The Amazon's spear is now more accurate with a new attack behavior. I quite like the new attack behavior, actually. It increases attacks per second from 1.5 to 2. The Crop Scythe has been buffed from 100 to 125 to 125 to 150. Still not very good, but that's fine. The Gungeon has been increased damage from 175 to 200 to 200 to 250. The attacks per second has been increased from 2.25 to 2.5. The halberd damage has increased from between 175 and 200 to between 200 and 250. The lance has been increased from 200 to 225 to 200 to 250. The life hunt scythe damage is increased to 175 to 200. I'm just going to read the buff numbers. Running out of breath. The Naginata is increased to 200 to 250. The poleaxe has been buffed to 225 to 250. The Reaper's toll attacks per second has been nerfed from 2.25 to 1.75, but it's had a large damage buff from 125 to 150 up to 200 to 250. The spear range has been increased from 80 to 95, and its damage has increased up to 175 to 200. The trident damage has been decreased significantly down from 175 to 200 to 100 to 125, but it can now shotgun hit with all 3 projectiles. I didn't realize it couldn't do that before. That's very good to know. Its attacks per second has been increased from 2 to 3, and its range has been increased from 50 to 95. All scroll and tome weapons have been either buffed or made slightly more usable with their aim and AoE and such. As well as some decreased clutter, so they're more usable. So we're going to give some of those a try when I get the chance. The Acid Cloud Scroll now has droplets fall faster, reduced particle trail length for more clarity, increased impact area for each droplet, increased attacks per second to 2.5, increased the damage to 75 to 100, and reduced the total amount of droplets per attack from 9 to 5. Whew. There's a lot here, but it's a lot of good changes. The Candy Scroll has been damage buffed by 25. Candy now falls faster and impact AoE is increased, but the spread radius has been reduced from 5 to 3 to make it more precise. The Comet Scroll has had a 25% damage up, 225 to 250 now. It's reduced the particle effect duration and the rate of particle effects, and the impact radius is made slightly bigger. The Explosion Scroll has had its spread reduced from 5 to 3 units, giving it less AoE. The Firestorm Scroll, particle amounts reduced. It's had an intelligence scaling buff from D to C. Impact radius has been increased, with spread radius decreased. Total amounts reduced from 5 to 6 to 4, but a damage increase up to 125 to 150. The Meteor Scroll meteors fall faster, but it can now only call down 1 meteor per attack instead of 3, but its attacks per second has been increased from 1 to 2.5, and has had a sizable damage increase by 75 up to 200 to 300. 250 to 300. The Nimbus Scroll AoE has been increased, its APS has been increased from 5 to 2, and its damage has been increased from 125 to 150 up to 175 to 200. The Thunderstorm Scroll now has guaranteed shock infliction, and the spread of the lightning strikes has been reduced. It has increased the size of the hitboxes for the Toad Plague Scroll projectiles. The toads now fall faster, and only drops 4 toads per attack instead of 4 to 5. But, to compensate for this, the attacks per second have been increased from 2.25 to 2.5. Arcane Lances of the Arcane Torrent Tome now use a sprite trail rather than particle effect to be less visually obtrusive. And the fly speed has been increased slightly. The Firebomb Codex attacks per second has been nerfed from 3.25 to 2, but its damage has increased a little bit from 125 to 150 up to 175 to 200. The impact radius has been increased and the fly speed has been increased. So that's a nerf overall on the Firebomb Codex. The Volcanic Codex has had an APS increase from 5 to 8. Remove the hidden modifier on the weapon, which granted chance to trigger a refire. Increase the spread radius, and increase the maximum range from 70 to 100. The Spectral Blade Wand has increased damage from 125 to 150, up to 175 to 200 per blade, which is good because that wand was bad. Still kinda is. The Firefang Arrow spread has been reduced. The Trichakram spread has been reduced, and the visual trail effect has been made less obtrusive. The Disc Cannon, Laser Gun, Laser Rifle, Machine Gun, SMG, and Triple Machine Gun have had their spreads reduced slightly, making the Disc Cannon actually quite usable. I had a run with it, and I used it for a decent chunk of the run. SMG attacks per second has been nerfed from 10 to 8 attacks per second, and we got some new weapons. The Bazooka. Not seen it yet, can't comment on it. The Railgun. Straightforward, haven't seen it enough to comment much on it. Flame Slugger. I think that's a fire shotgun if I remember correctly, or a fire grenade launcher. The Golden Desert Eagle I've heard might be getting buffed because it's kind of underwhelming at the moment. The Piranha Gun. Oh, the Piranha Gun is so cool. It shoots 3 rounds, shoots piranhas that inflict a piranha bite effect on a target. It's very weird and cool. It's a C scale with both dex and int. I quite like it. The Outstanding Money Gun is hilarious. It's a dex and strength gun, poor scaling, but it gains a base damage increase by your current money. And it shoots dollar bills in a spread like an SMG. The Death Beam. Sounds straightforward, but I've not encountered it. The Gatling Gun. Excited to see that. The Mini Bee. Oh, I love the Mini Bee, and it also got buffed. It's a minigun that shoots bee stingers, and I frickin' love it. It also applies poison, super good for a dots build. The Maxi Bee I've not seen. Did I see the Mini Bee or the Maxi Bee? I can't remember now. The Mini Bee got buffed, but there's also a Maxi Bee I didn't know about. The Tommy Gun and the VBFG. I really like the VBFG. I had a death fight with the VBFG and sling pistols. That was chef's kiss. We're almost done here with the patch notes. I'm not going to read through all the bug fixes. You can read this on your own. They're pretty... I've not really encountered most of these. But we will go over the enemy changes and then blessing changes. No bosses are immune to chill. All bosses now have a minimum speed which they can't be slowed below. Reduce the spawn rate of exploding frozen orbs of frozen enchanted enemies. Reduce the spawn rate and amount of lightning strikes of storm enchanted enemies. Shorten the attack phase in which the Mind Flamer becomes invisible and invincible and attacks the player with the waves of Psy Lightning. Good change, I think. Slightly decrease the health of death. Reduce the total health of Megadeth, and the health additionally has been adjusted to compensate for the loss of the guaranteed ethereal enchantment. The Gargoyles have had their health increase, which I think was a good choice. Slightly reduce the amount of falling rocks when Minotaur runs into a wall. Thank you. Now please just do it for the Phoenix as well. Iron Maiden enemies in floor 8 will now leave behind a stationary permanent corpse which acts as an indicator, to which point projectiles will return to if the enemy dies. So now when the corpse doesn't disappear, so that way you know where all its projectiles are going to. Slight increased damage reduction buff, because there's a damage reduction buff to Kraken, Death, and Megadeth, which they can use. It's been increased a bit. King Ooze doesn't spawn normal oozes anymore, which makes it melee fighting easier. Cerberus has been nerfed and tweaked to make him a bit less oppressive. I think it's a good change. I did fight him yesterday. Reduce the attack rate of the Mosquito in floor 5. Reduce the projectiles of the Crab. Reduce the amount of projectiles the Ifrits shoot. And increase the health of the Soul Pylons to make them, more challenging. Blessing changes, and then I've already expressed that I love this update. I think it's almost exclusively good changes. And here are the last of said changes. Each blessing can now be individually turned on and off, but the Cinder placeholder menu has been removed until Cinders come in their full form. Reverse the orders in which the blessings are sorted in the menu. Most blessings have been nerfed slightly, but are now also cheaper. Charisma now grants 5% reduced shop prices per level up to 15%. Because shop prices are now less, charisma is less good. Ambush now grants 10% more damage for 4 seconds upon entering a room, and was increased from 5%, but the max level's been reduced. Backstab max level's been reduced from level 4 to 2. Big Game Hunter now grants 10% more damage against bosses, up from 5, but there are now only 2 levels instead of 4. Fatal Flaw now grants plus 10% more bonus damage against enemies weak to the attack, up from 5, but the max level has been reduced from 5 to 2. Finesse max level has been reduced from level 4 to 3. Magnetism max level has been reduced from 5 to 4. Mega Bomber has had level increase from 3 to 4. And Enchanting max level has been reduced from 5 to 4. None of these are super relevant. But, yeah, those are the patch notes for version 0.1.8. I really enjoyed this update. Looking forward to you guys seeing my videos on it, because I quite enjoyed my time with the Gunslinger and the reworked Pyro. And be sure to subscribe to the channel for all things Tiny Rogues, and everything else. Thanks for watching. Other than that, peace out, guys.
Hello, what's happening? It's that man in black and green. Sometimes sweet and saccharine, sometimes he be as mad as me. Insanity, persistently